This is the power of manual override mode in 2026 Formula 1. Look at this speed, bloody, it's like we've time jumped. And today we're testing that and so much more, as this is a look into 2026 Formula 1. As we have just drawn the curtain on 2025, there's a lot of discourse about how bad the new regulations might be. Next year, the cars are getting slightly smaller and lighter, with active aero now a thing. No more DRS, the front wing and the rear wing will move in unison automatically with the car system. With lower downforce, with about a reduction of 30% and 55% less drag, racing should be improved, but the new engine regulations with a 50-50 split of ICE and electrical power and things like the manual override mode, or MOM, could potentially make this a disastrous set of regulations. Let's try and do a bit of our own testing in the game early and see. It's a 5-lap race here around the Bahrain Grand Prix, the place where they'll be going to their first public testing. There is a private test at Catalonia a lot earlier, only about, I think, 80 or so days away as I post this video, which is pretty crazy. But we get off the line in Assetto Corsa, of course, have to allow for the AI being a little bit slow off the line, but the active aero is immediately available off the 5 red lights and is activated a lot more often. So on this heads-up display on the bottom right, you'll see it still says DRS. That's because it's an old UI, but effectively the front wing and the rear wing right now are opening and then closing when that gets activated. We've had a good start as, oh my lord, well, that's certainly something Mercedes will be hoping to avoid in testing, as George Russell does a barrel roll here as Verstappen gets a little bit wayward, and you can see the cars do genuinely look a lot lighter on its feet, a bit more nimble. You know, they're dancing around. Verstappen lost the rear end there on the curve. We're losing the rear end as we try and get past the Dutchman. Lando Norris leading the way. Of course, now the reigning world champion into 2026. But look at this override mode. We use it for the first time. And look at the bottom right, how much battery gets deployed of the ERS system. It's crazy. And even audibly, like, I'll just quieten down when we try it again versus Lawson. You can hear everything winding up. It genuinely is like Star Wars, and you just pull the light speed and it's just go, go, go. But counter to that is we've heard a lot of discourse of allegedly maybe drivers will have to downshift in the middle of a straight to gain battery back to, you know, actually be able to defend then into a corner potentially. Look at this. We are going so quick. We're going to get 1, 2, maybe 3. Oh, we're going so quick into turn 1. We just about slow it down. We get the move on Hamilton in the Ferrari. Stroll's been done. Lawson's been done. And we're up into second place. And we chase after Lando Norris, who's got quite the advantage here. Potentially, is this what we're looking at in 2026? One car having a big advantage? That's what happened in 2014, the last time we had such a big engine and chassis regulation change. 2022 was quite big, but nowhere near what this is going to be. And this is very much kind of the same way as 2014, where such a big difference, and engine manufacturers are going to be a big thing. So it may not be McLaren being right up there. My money would be, you know, maybe a Mercedes, depending on what Ferrari do. But, you know, we know Ferrari could easily cock up the chassis so much the engine won't matter. But I think Mercedes could be a big bet. Who knows what Honda are going to do? What are Audi going to come in with? And then, of course, Red Bull and Ford are making their own engine. You know, big question marks of if they're up to that sort of task. You know, they've never made an engine before, whereas Audi have, you know, expertise in that area. Honda obviously turned it around in their entry in Formula 1 in this first phase of the V6 engines, and this is a completely different phase of V6 with the 50-50 power. So there's a lot of unknown. So these sort of gaps could be there, you know, could be there in testing, and then could be there unfortunately, maybe for the, for the entire first season, really. But the hope is, even with those big gaps, we'll still see some better racing when you do get moments like this, where clearly this Aston, Lance Stroll, overspeed on the Ferrari there, had extra battery, I would imagine. Hamilton's lost it! Is that going to be a bad omen for 2026? Come back to this video after the first race and we'll see any of the bad omens here. But Hamilton's had an absolute mare, continuing his, distaste to the Ferrari, I suppose, from 2025. And he's, I think, locked in with Lance Stroll. Oh, yeah, there's a smoke. I don't think this is maybe a taster of what's to come in 2026. If it is, chaos. Absolute chaos. But in general, minus the weird AI foibles aside, the cars, every single car here, looks just a lot better with the circuit. They're a little bit smaller, and it just looks like eventually when these regulations were to mature after a couple of seasons, when they get closer together, they'll be able to fit better at every single circuit because they're a bit smaller. And then also you just got the actual chassis itself hopefully being better with the active aero. The aim of that is to just cut drag so you can actually get good slipstreaming and overtaking in a straight line, whilst also maintaining downforce levels in the corners then when the flaps close. But now we're going to focus back on ourselves and actually talk about my experience here with this 2026 car. We're driving an Audi liveried car, and you can see on the top, we're using the MGUK modes a lot, because compared to my first try with this mod about a year ago maybe, understanding this a lot more now with how the regulations are written, basically, using override mode and recovery mode as well to really gain a lot in the corners to bring the battery back. You can see, though, the higher recovery percentage you have, the rear end squirrels around because you're really putting a number on the braking system, on everything to recover that energy and then, obviously feed it back into the battery to then use, basically. But you're going to see coming up, we're going to tactically save a lot, dump it all on override mode, and then I'm going to test with this mod, with this car, that theory about basically downshifting early whilst we're still on the straight to gain back energy. And you'll see, actually, this mod does a good job at actually illustrating that, because it does actually do that in a pretty good way. I think this is actually quite a good illustration of what might occur. So we're now tucked up behind the McLaren. It's actually a nice little battle because we're trying to get as close as we can, maybe even going for a move early, but the car is a little bit of a handful to handle, for myself with the muscle memory of last era. I think that's something that everyone's gonna have to get used to, is the lower downforce, so the lap times are going to be reduced. But then look at this override mode, and we're going to gain so much. The battery is down from 60% to 40%, maybe lower, and then we're going to downshift early, and we've gained back up to 60% by the time we get to the apex. So early downshifting in the middle of the straight, really elongating the recovery phase. And whilst we went to the brakes, we boosted the recovery. We went to no deploy. So we did a lot of switching. I think the driver's going to have to do so much in the cockpit, and a lot of toggles to go up and down recovery modes, up and down the deployment modes as they go into a corner to get back that energy, because they might just dump about 30% battery in override mode with the manual override mode, the MOM. I don't know whether the commentators will be referring to as MOM all the time. It's going to be a bit weird and getting used to saying MOM instead of DRS all of the time when it comes to overtaking in a straight line. But then you'll see drivers, the worry is, going down a gear in very unorthodox places, simply just to get some battery back then to help them elsewhere. And it's a case of, maybe, the way I understand it is, maybe giving up some pace in some areas to downshift and get that battery back, to then get a dividend later in the lap where you have that battery back again. It's going to be fascinating. I think, for those of you who have been around watching Formula 1 since 2014, maybe on this channel, you'll remember how much intrigue there was from myself. I used to do a podcast at the time of how much interest there was around 2014 because it's such a big unknown. And that era, 2014 to 2016, there was so much development going on. Car to car, every car looked different as well, which we haven't had for a while in Formula 1. So there's a lot of interest. Whether that interest, though, translates to an actual good regulation set is a different thing. It can be interesting, yet horrendous and chaotic. And that's, I guess, what we're all going to find out later on in January. Not too far away when 2026 begins. But guys, if you have enjoyed this one, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. So we'll be uploading plenty of videos over the winter break until the 2026 season begins. I'll catch you guys around. Goodbye.